We all know people that have mental health problems, and there's all sorts of ways in which that can be dealt with. One of the reasons that is concerning me about this new bill that they're bringing out, $112 million to mental health, is that I would have thought there's enough in place for mental health people to be adequately looked after. The problem that we're having is now is the domestic, I'm going to say the domestic right in the core of the family home, which is in most cases, or some cases, I'll be very careful how I word this, in some cases contributing to the mental health by way of not bringing people up in a constitutional way. They're bringing people up with drugs, and they're being exposed to alcohol and substances, and they're generationally taking these things on and ending up with mental health problems coming out from within. These people are starting to come out of their caves, the abuse that they're creating at home. They're leaving homes and then manifesting this same sort of behaviour in our communities, and they're killing people and harming themselves and abusing police and ambulance drivers and all the rest of it. And it's all coming under the banner of mental health. A lot of this stuff's criminal. I think they're trying to, in some ways, get assistance for people that are criminals that haven't gone to jail yet. I've had partners, I've had girlfriends that have had adult children, and this is several, not just one, that you could easily rate as criminal. But they'll put it down to mental health. These people are deluded, a lot of them. Let's see what this article has to say, because I think mental health now has been put on such a pedestal that we've lost our way. We've lost our way from describing someone that's got a criminal ideology, a harmful ideology. Even 101 counselling psychology teaches you if somebody's going to harm themselves or anybody else at even the baseline level, the authorities have to be called. You don't just go, you can ring up Lifeline and all the rest of it, but if the pattern of behaviour is part of their core personality, handing out $112 million to a pack of people that are turning into crims and saying it's mental health isn't going to fix anything.
In the aftermath of the Bondi massacre, as the horror of what had unfolded was still sinking in, our Premier promised to investigate ways to ensure similar attacks could be prevented. Today, there's been a first step, a multi-million-dollar mental health package aimed at giving people the care and support they need before they suffer an acute psychiatric break.
Now, a psychiatric break can be likened to a personality disorder breakdown, but there's different aspects in which this manifests as the people are breaking down. I've seen adult children have psychological narcissistic breakdowns because they didn't want mummy to have a boyfriend. I've seen this with my own two eyes on several occasions, not just one. Now, you take this person that's not getting their psychological needs met, whether they're legitimate or not, and they're describing these breakdowns as mental health weaknesses, but they aren't necessarily so. These could be infantile people that have been brought up in families the wrong way, and they haven't developed properly, and now we've got more than a mental health issue. We've got a domestic culturalized individual in the community that's capable of cracking at any tick of the clock. What is mental health? Is Lifeline there for mental health and these hundreds of thousands of other organisations? Okay, they've set up NDIS. I've looked at this NDIS, and there's people just making a fortune out of it. They're not, a lot of them are, I've got to be careful. But I've seen things that people have done through NDIS just by acquaintance that I hang my head in shame. A lot of these people that they've got in houses should be, seriously looked after in hospitals and by properly trained nurses and carers. And they've got people that they're signing up off the streets looking after these people that need serious professional care. Now, I know a lot of these people that are caring for these people need help themselves. And they've just found $112 million to put into this. Everything's in place for this. They didn't need to do this. Who's going to take this cash grab?
There's a long range of recommendations, but the bottom line is the Minns government is improving the way people with mental health issues access much needed help. One of the people who has been working...
I want to know how.
...with the government to get to this point is mental health campaigner Judy Deakin. Judy, welcome and thank you for your time. There's a lot of different initiatives here, including alternatives to long-term hospital care and establishing a single front door where people can access a range of services in one spot. Are you confident this can help?
Now, let's just interpret what he just said. There's long-term hospital care options, right? So that's a situation where, and this is where you got to look at NDIS, where somebody's had a mental breakdown. See, a lot of these people with these mental issues don't qualify for NDIS because they haven't got they're not damaged enough to get their foot in the door to be able to claim it. But this is going to start a whole new debt on the taxpayers for people that are not willing to, or in some way have lost their way mentally and just don't want to face a lot of things that are going on in their lives. What he's saying is that it's going to provide a long-term hospital and all that sort of stuff help, which we already have. Here in New South Wales, viewers, they were passing out 20 at a time appointments to go and see a counsellor, 20 at a time. How far is this going to go? Like, they're going to be wiping people's asses and dressing them and doing up their shoelaces next, and there's nothing wrong with them. A lot of these single mothers do that. I'm not saying that's what this woman is, but I'm saying a lot of these single mothers have spoiled and ruined their children so badly. Of course they're going to have mental health. They don't know how to cope in the abrasiveness and demands of a world that's not going to stroke their egos and give them everything they want.
Anything that makes a change and improves what is already actually non-existent is great.
Non-existent is not true. We've got thousands upon thousands of counselling services and support groups, support systems and all the rest of it, right across the board. I just Lifeline alone. It's a place where you ring up and you'll have someone sit on the end of it and listen to you and that. What more can they... I think actually Lifeline gets so busy, right, that they can't manage all the calls. So there's a lot of this stuff's drug-induced and alcohol-induced and substance-induced as well. So what we could be doing here in a lot of ways is facilitating people to put themselves in a mental health state by the way that they've chosen to live. And I'm not saying this is all, because you can tell genuine mental health problem people, but you can also tell self-inflicted mental health people as well. So she's saying that there's no places for that. That's rubbish. You can walk into here in Australia for free into the emergency department at the local hospital for free and tell them that you're thinking about shooting someone or you want to commit suicide, and they'll get you all the help you want for free. What's this? $112 million? I'll tell you something. A lot of these people don't want to expose themselves in a way in which they might have to be responsible and accountable for the mental health they have.
And I think the state government is fantastic. And
for the mental health they've put on themselves, put themselves into this state by their lifestyles and behaviours, their self-abuse.
Kudos, but I want a federal involvement in all this, because what it needs is money, and they've got it, and they just need to want to give it to us.
Judy.
And look, I'm telling you, they don't need money. They need to collaborate.
Before we go into that, can you tell us a bit about your story, the reason you've become so passionate about improving access to mental health help?
On the 20th of July last year, 2023, my son was having a mental health episode.
Now, this guy, let's just have a look. I'm not picking on him, but let's just look. He's got cigarette mark burns all over him. I'd say that's alcohol. He hasn't been looking after himself. Hello, anybody? Know but somebody like this? Right? Anybody know somebody like this? Right, how much money do you want to put into this person's life before they turn themselves around and get straight? Yeah, I'm sure he's got some issues, but what is the reason for them? Look, should he have been out and about on his own? Like, oh, come on. Well, what about parental responsibility? I know women that are still raising men that are 40, 50 years old. Still wiping their asses for them and cooking for them and all this stuff while they're drugging on and grogging on and smoking their heads off and wasting their money. They got nothing to show for themselves. Let's get a bit real here, viewers.
He tried to went to a neighbour, which meant that he was just self-harming but not wanting to die.
He was just self-harming but not wanting to die. So he's gone to a neighbour. What on earth was this person doing out in the community? We are ignorant. We're completely ignorant. How's money going to fix this? All the information, all the places that you need to go to, they're already there.
Police were called and got there before the ambulance did, and he was shot and he died in his own home, which was entered forcefully.
Now, I'm going to tell you something right now. My daughter's a policewoman here in Australia, and you just don't go around shooting people for no reason. Now, let's just dig a little bit deeper here, viewers. Man dies after being tased and shot by police in Sydney's inner west. Police say 43-year-old, this guy was a 43-year-old man, was armed with a knife. Right, they're not telling you that. He was armed with a knife and died at the scene after being shot. A man has been shot dead after a confrontation with the police. Right? They're making out the police have just barged their way in there and just taken this man out. It's rubbish. Absolute rubbish. Oh my God. The officers were called to a unit complex in inner Western Glebe just before midnight over concerns for a man's welfare. When police arrived, they were confronted by a 43-year-old man armed with a knife, they said. One officer discharged a taser. This guy wasn't going to stand down. One officer discharged the taser before another officer shot the man. So he's obviously charged at him. He hasn't given in. He hasn't stepped down. Who was treated by paramedics but died at the scene. The government last month scrapped plans to redevelop the block which included private housing. At the time, it was said the redevelopment plan was causing unnecessary stress for tenants. Oh, for goodness sake. Detectives and forensic... Is that a good enough reason for people to be running around threatening police with knives? Detectives and forensic investigators could be seen scouring the site for information on Thursday morning. An critical incident team from the State Crime Command will investigate the death and an independent inquiry will also be launched.
Give it to us.
Judy, before we go into that, can you tell us a bit about your story, the reason you've become so passionate about improving access to mental health help?
On the 20th of July last year, 2023, my son was having a mental health episode. He tried to went to a neighbour, which meant that he was just self-harming but not wanting to die. The police were called and got there before the ambulance did, and he was shot and he died in his own home, which was entered forcefully. And so I looked at the big picture, and I can't grieve and I can't relate until something is done, not just for my son's heritage, but for all the other victims.
Guys, viewers, this man's 43 years old. 43 years old.
Victims with mental health issues before and to come.
What is the next step?
Well, firstly, most importantly, I would like to have mental health on a 000 line, and that needs federal funding.
If they put mental health on a 000 line, it's never going to stop. You'd never be able to cope, because the mental health issues across the world now are just, you cannot meet the need of them. That's why there's drugs and alcohol and all this other stuff that these people turn to. You might say, well, if they had help, they wouldn't turn. The help's already there. If you're having a mental health issue, go to the hospital. Go straight to the hospital. Behind the hospital, there's a mental health facility at Gosford. They're trying to privatise the health of these people, and it can't be done. Look at NDIS. It doesn't work. It's a big money pit. People are getting rich out of it, and these people they're not getting their services for the majority. This could be Lifeline, right?
That means that they have to provide money and an infrastructure to employ people who care, who are trained, who are mental health responders, so that police...
That's no different to Lifeline and these other ones.
Police can do their job, not with mental health issues.
Okay, so she wants to isolate the police who get called in, right, to people that are running around with knives and threatening to self-harm and harm other people. She doesn't want the police to deal with that. She wants these people on the other end of the phones and this sort of thing to try and calm these people down. These people need to be hospitalised, right? It's not one of these things where you can... Look, I know people that think they're running medical centres and all this sort of thing domestically out of their homes, and all they're doing is harming the children that they're trying to help.
Second thing I want is a national database. There are databases, nobody looks at them, nobody shares. If Bondi Junction had had a database, we might not have been in that dreadful, dreadful situation.
No, that's not true. A database only helps you to know who these people are and what they've done and where they've been or where they are. Now, people knew where he was, but he still went through and stabbed so many people and did what he had to do. He got shot by the police as well. So what you've got is these people running around in these psychotic states, right, that are turning them into... They're manifesting evil, right? They're criminals. Once you pick up a knife or a gun or something like that, you're a criminal.
And the other thing I would like is independent living with support. That's
NDIS. It's already there. This poor woman, why didn't she tap into all that? Because they want to hide what's really going on behind closed doors.
As far as I know, if you have an intellectual disability, that's available. Your rights aren't taken away, but you'll get help. They're the main three things.
Judy, I really appreciate you talking to us. We'll have to leave it there.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, that poor woman is trying to stand up for people that have probably been mixed up with drugs and alcohol and all this other stuff, because if you've got a genuine mental illness, believe you me, there's places out there you can go to. But what's happening is these people are trying to shelter these mental health people because they've got habits. They're doing things that they shouldn't do. They're not. Their mental health is not being dealt with properly from within the home. I'm telling you, it's coming from the families. If this person had a mental health issue, why wasn't he navigated the way that he needed to be so that he would be able to develop into the person that he was supposed to be? What's $112 million of taxpayers' money going to do on top of everything else that's already out there? No, I'm not buying it. The fortitude and resilience that we're supposed to have as communities to teach these young people to be a little bit stronger and a little bit tougher and look in the mirror a little bit closer. Your habits and your things might not be doing you any good. They get off the drugs and they fill them up with other medications and things. Well, that's a clinical mental health issue, right? And these people should be on a database. But no, I can't. Somebody's going to profit out of that $112 million like they are out of NDIS. And that's going to be it, because everything is already there. Comment, everything is already there.